see so many of you out here. This is a very, very special day. We know it's hot, but we do thank you for coming. This is indeed the day the Lord has made, and today we're going to rejoice, we're going to celebrate, and we are going to be glad for this wonderful unveiling of this beautiful mural of the historic Jacson house in Selma, Alabama. I'm Kim Davis. I'm a friend of Jim and Joanna's. We met back in 2015 during the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery Civil Rights March. And we've been friends ever since. I have to tell you a very short story. So when I met Joanna and I met Jim, they welcomed me into the Jacson house. And I have to tell you, the time I walked inside, I felt the spirit of the movement. And today we capture that spirit and the legacy of the Jacson house with this beautiful, beautiful mural. So as we get started, we thank you again for coming. We won't be long, but we've got several people who want to say congratulations to Jim and Joanna for their vision and for the friends who've come from near and far, from as far away as Michigan and Atlanta to Pensacola and to Montgomery, Alabama. We begin now with a special scripture reading from Michaela. Now Michaela is from Selma, Alabama. She is a senior this year. She graduates next year, and I understand she is going to UAB, where she's going to major in biosciences, biomedical sciences. Congratulate her. Please give the scripture reading.
Good morning. Today my scripture is coming from Psalms 78, verses 4 through 7. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about his power and his mighty wonders. For he issued his laws to Jacob. He gave his instructions to Israel. He commanded our ancestors to teach them to their children, so the next generation might know them, even the children not born yet. And they in turn will teach their children. So each generation should set its hope anew on God, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. I have read to you Psalms number 78, verses 4 through 7.
Thank you, Michaela. We just want to say welcome again to all the family and friends. If you are a family member of Joanna Jacson and Jim Richie, would you just kindly raise your hand, please? Would you just raise your hand? Thank you all for coming. A wonderful friend of Joanna, if you grew up with her in Selma, Alabama, and you know all about her family and even played jacks with Joanna as a little girl, would you raise your hand? Janie Thomas, you need to come on up now because you are next, and we know you and Joanna were childhood friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to City Council person Janie Thomas, who has been absolutely and totally supportive of the Jacson House project. Welcome, Janie.
Good morning, everybody. As an elected official.
Speak in the mic.
Okay, I'm sorry. As an elected official for this District 7, this historic day. First of all, you need to know some history why we're here. First of all, you need to know some history why we're here today. I have known Joanna Jacson and her family all of my life. Joanna and I were raised in this neighborhood. In this very neighborhood, and attended school together. Through high school, and I would not say how long that has been. I have always known her family history, and I am proud to stand with her today. Today we will unveil a new chapter for the Jacson family and its legacy in our childhood neighborhood. I support Miss Jacson when her home was here as a museum, and I now has committed to Selma and her family story. Today, Unvieled will add more history to our district that is filled with the best Selma has offered. I work each and every day to make Ward 7 highlight of Selma, for it is the people in the city. I want to thank Joanna for her dedication, for her family neighborhood. This mural will attach a vision from all around the country and the world who will learn about Selma history and help us move forward for better community. I cannot wait, Joanna, to see this wonderful tribute to your family who dedicated themselves to help Selma and our country be a better place for all of us and the people. That's it.
Councilperson Janie Thomas was absolutely correct. It is a tremendous history with the Jacson House. And to continue to share more of the history and the new partnership of the Jacson House, I welcome and introduce you to the CFO from the Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, Mr. Brent Ott. Welcome, Brent. He traveled from Dearborn to Selma, Alabama. He's been intricately involved from day one, including the move of the home, where it sits in storage as we prepare to have it unveiled in a few years. Brent, share the story and welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, Selma. Good morning. I am Brent Ott. I am actually the Chief Operating Officer of the Henry Ford, and I'm honored to give the privilege of being here in Selma representing the Henry Ford to support our dear friend, Joanna Jacson and her family. I'm thankful that Joanna is a friend to the institution and also a personal friend to me as we've gotten to know each other over the past couple of years. The Henry Ford is an American history destination and a learning hub that uses its expertise and its unparalleled collection to inspire every individual to help shape a better future. We tell the stories of ordinary people who have done extraordinary things in this world, in the Jacson family here. We had the good fortune to meet Joanna and Jim a couple of years ago now, when Joanna called up our institution and spoke with our CEO, Patricia Meridian, about acquiring her home here in Selma. I've got to tell you, that was a wild idea. I thought at the time, it still is a wild idea. But at the time, when Joanna was considering how best to preserve and elevate the legacy of her family's house, she had a vision. She had a vision for her childhood home that meshed perfectly with the mission of the Henry Ford. It's what we do. And today we are still continuing to move forward with Joanna's vision. Preserving, maintaining, sustaining, and programming historic buildings is what we do best. It's in our DNA. We've been doing it for almost 100 years now. The Henry Ford believes these important structures hold powerful insight and recollection of pivotal moments in American history. The Jacson House will now join more than 80 other authentic houses, structures that tell stories of great change. Think of the courthouse where Abraham Lincoln practiced law. Think of the laboratory where Thomas Edison perfected the light bulb. The home and workshop where Orville and Wilbur Wright invented their first airplane. And now think the Jacson home. The Henry Ford will tell the story of Joanna's family to nearly 1.7 million guests we serve every year, including hundreds of thousands of school children and visitors from all across the globe. The Jacson home will open once again to the public in Greenville Village early in 2026, just in time for America's 250th celebration. It's going to be a great year altogether when we unveil the house. Again, I am honored to join Joanna at this official dedication of this special mural, an endearing tribute to her family and their extraordinary legacy. Joanna, I don't say this lightly, the Jacson family story will live on in perpetuity across the United States. Thank you.
Everybody, we've got chance, Joanna and Jim and I got a chance actually to go to the Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, and we toured. They rolled out the red carpet and gave us a beautiful tour of Greenfield Village. As Joanna is sitting there remembering, and Jim remembering that wonderful tour, I think they know that this is the Greenfield Village site for the Jacson home will be the perfect venue for the world to see the beautiful Jacson home. Now, this is a new chapter, as Janie said, in the historic Jacson house. She commissioned our dear friend and national artist Ronald McDowell, Dr. Ronald McDowell, to put this beautiful mural together. Hand in hand with Joanna and Jim, they collaborated on what we are getting ready to see. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Ronald McDowell, our friend and artist. Ronald.
Good morning. It's hot out here today. I just want to say thank you for coming, and I hope you appreciate and you can enjoy the artwork. This was a gift from God. Never had any lessons, just a passion. From birth, I've been drawing since I was 11 months old and sculpting. So now this is my latest job, and I hope you guys appreciate it. And thanks to Joanna and Jim for trusting me with this project. Thanks again.
I have to say, Ronald is a man of few words. But if you sit down and you talk to him, and huge talent. If you sit down and talk with him, he'll tell you his wonderful and beautiful story. I think you will certainly see just how talented, how God-given talented this man truly, truly is. Ronald, we love you. You know that. You know that. It is my pleasure now to bring my dear friend Joanna Jacson to the podium. This is heartfelt for her, but in her heart of hearts, I know she is very pleased that her mother and her father and their families are very pleased that there is a new chapter beginning with the Jacson House in Dearborn, Michigan, and now with this beautiful mural that will be a lasting tribute to the Jacson House and their families. Would you stand please and welcome my dear friend, Joanna Jacson.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good morning. What a day the Lord has provided. Thank you all for coming to the Jacson Historic Site, for the unveiling of what I hope to be a vision, a mural of love, community, justice, peace, freedom, and hope. How do you memorialize ancestors? How do you have a conversation with your mother and your father who are no longer with you? And you say, the house is safe, but the story must continue. How do you have that conversation with yourself when you say, this family continues to be dedicated to the principles of justice, peace, and freedom for all? Of the three families that lived in the house that used to be here, that is now in Michigan, All three families were related to me. Of those three families, my mother and father, Dr. and Mrs. Sullivan Jacson, were the only ones to have a child, me. I am the one that was left here to patron this house, to patron this site, and to keep this flame going. Some friends of mine last night in Pensacola, where Jim and I live, were listening to how do you keep the music playing? How do you keep the story going? I must give thanks to the Henry Ford for coming into our lives and rescuing the house that will now stand for all time. But then we're left here with this site. And it occurred to me that a mural needs to be done. This will be our contribution, I leave back to Selma. It tells a part of Selma's history. It tells a part of Alabama's history. It tells a part of our national history. And at the Henry Ford, this site and the house will all come together, and the world will know what community is about, what family is about, what democracy, justice, peace, and freedom is about. Now, we have family here. Raise your hand, and I thank you for being here. I'm also joined by my posse from Fisk University. Raise your hand. I've known these people for 47 years. We counted it up last night. And they've traveled here with me. That's my ride or die team. To support not only this site and the house, but to support our friendship that's been so strong over the years. To James Richie, who has been by my side through it all. He came to this house almost 30 years ago to meet my parents. And the doors of this house opened to him, and the doors of my heart opened to him, and it never shut. Thank you, Jim, for everything. The world had a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I had an Uncle Martin in this house. I wish I had been older before to understand what was going on around me. The things that he stood for, the lessons that I learned at a young age. But we find ourselves now at a juncture where, now more than ever, the principles of justice, peace, and freedom are so important as we try as a community to hold on to what this nation knows as a democracy. In closing, Sullivan and Richie Jean Sherrod Jacson were two incredible people. They held Selma close to their hearts. They raised me here. And I'm hoping that at this moment they are looking down, and what you all will see and what their spirits will see in just a few moments, they will approve. Because I'm sharing this with you. Jim, Kim, McDowell, Grant, and Janie Thomas.
Sure. I'll get over here.
Without further ado, one, two, three. Jim has always said to me, this is what you need to do. So it was not my intention to talk anymore, but he told me that once this is unveiled, you need to go back and just go over the wall and let people know who everyone is. So if you'll allow me just a moment, I'll do that. Anthony and Ellen Richie married in 1866 and started my mother's family. Built this house. That built this house. Is there a way that I can take it off? I call them the 1866 because they started it all. Anthony and Ellen. So those are my mother's great-grandparents. My mother and father, Richie Jean Sheriff Jacson and Dr. Sullivan Jacson. Cousin Leola Hudson Whitted, and her husband, Dr. William Whitted, who was also a dentist. The house was built for Cousin Leola as a wedding present in 1912 when she married Dr. Whitted. My cousin, Dr. Eric Portlock, and his wife, who was also a dentist, and lived in this house from about 1930 till about 1958. And then my parents from 1958 until 2013. W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington traveled to Selma and held fireside chats in this house. Booker T. Washington was best friends with Dr. Hudson. So he would come down at a moment's notice to talk about economic sustainability and peace and justice and how the African American community could make it a stronger community in the Black Belt. Uncle Martin. In the third bedroom of this house, as they were planning the Selma to Montgomery March, you'll notice Ralph Abernathy, Dr. King, Bevel, Jose Williams, they would all meet strategically throughout this house. Mrs. King, who played a huge role in the life of Dr. King, and also in my life, because for 10 years I served as Director of Visitor Services for Mrs. King at the King Center in Atlanta. Tea and cookies with Uncle Martin. And I think McDowell captured that so well with this.
If I could go back to those years and those days, I would. This is the only house in the world where the first two African-American Nobel Peace Prize recipients, Dr. Ralph Bunche and Dr. King, met. Dr. Bunche traveled to Selma and stayed in this house for several days as they held private meetings, planning the Selma to Montgomery March. The Edmund Pettus Bridge, which we all know is synonymous in this country with the right to vote. Marchers in Selma marching for the right to vote. And President Lyndon Johnson, who called into this house on a regular basis to hold conversations with Dr. King about the Voting Rights Act. And finally, Jim and I. Brown Chapel Church is also there because it not only was my birth church, but it was also the church that launched the Selma to Montgomery March. That is where Dr. King left this house to go to Brown Chapel to start the 4-day Selma to Montgomery March. So I think that covers the mural, the wall. I know it covers my heart. And I'm hoping that the people that come by over the years and days and generations yet unborn will get a sense of what community, family, justice, and peace and freedom